So today, Ashwin and I are here, and we're going to be talking about a couple games I played recently, both of which are involved with defending artillery or defending really with artillery. Um, there's a couple examples here, both of which I am getting attacked. One I'm very aware, and one I'm not very aware. But the end of it is, you're fighting on your own tiles, own roads with artillery, and how the best approach is. What is the sim up to that, and then what does the defense look like a little bit? Um, First things first, we're starting with a um, Maori game where I don't realize I'm getting arty. So I'm going through,
Maybe full screen it.
yeah, I'm going through and I it's not my game is very fast, right? And I'm understanding my game is very fast, and I don't realize I'm getting artied until after I'm at factories. So a little bit of a different situation here, where you get I have the opportunity to build some factories potentially before I'm getting artied, but I know my clock is on, right? I know I have about 7 turns to prep till about turn 95 usually, before those artillery start showing up. So I'm very wide here. I'm on a 9 city Liberty game, on a very strong game. I'm not super worried about getting to artillery tech, right? I know I'll get there eventually, but it's how many cities and how many hammers you have to compromise before then, right? And what's my ability to put like units in front of these artillery, right? So
Yeah. So something I want to point out here is that you've got kind of three tiers of prep here. You've got one which is I need to finish the factory, then I'll go into units. There's one which is I'm going to make promos, my barracks and armories before I go into units. And there's a third is just I want to spam units. Those are all your possibilities, and you're mixing them up, right?
exactly. I'm actually not doing any of the third, right? So I'm not. There's no city that's going directly into unit builds, right? So I think I end up clicking autocracy here, right? And so even building a barracks is 50 hammers, right? And can get you double promos with total war, right? So
Mhm.
that's very effective, and that's very good ROI on a hammer investment. So none of that third tier, but I have to kind of decide on which cities like want to build factories and which ones want to build units, right? I end up building a lot of my faster factories, right? So Kaupo and the other city on that inland sea end up building factories, which is very greedy, right? Because those are potentially the first cities to get captured in this war, right? So I don't want to be like putting hammers into factories that might just be lost within a couple turns of John declaring, right?
Mhm.
But it's a balance because the late cities, right, would take so long to build factories that they would never build units, right? So
Mhm.
I'm trying to kind of balance how do I get units in front of this? How do I kind of catch up with with I want to actually build factories, get ideology, and be able to put up some longer term defense.
Mhm.
Um,
While we're here, can you talk about where you expect the attack to come?
Yeah. So I expected attack this to come really through two places. John has allied Chaco Canyon, and I think if he wants an effective siege on my cap, he's going to have to come through that CS and down. And the other point is on Cowpoy, right? I don't think there's much merit because the choke between those northern cities is pretty high, and the land is my cities are pretty spread out here. I don't think it's really quite a good idea for him to go north. I think he'd be much more effective going south, and that's where I'm going to kind of set up, right? Um, One of my mistakes here is as we go through this prep and this setup, right? I fort a little bit too far up, right? The reality is, if he's able to effectively do this, he's already going to be able to get like a ring of Arty around um, Cowpoy over here on the right. So let me just pause it right here. He should be able to get a ring of Arty around here, and he should be able to take siege the city rather effectively, right? I should be using this mountain and like developing a better choke, developing a better line in here, right? Even if it's with that city, right? To kind of if that's what he's expecting. So I'm not quite prepping in the right way, and I'm roading a little bit too far north, right? That I'm essentially roading for him right now, which is bad. But
Mhm.
any other
One of the things
thoughts?
that I see players fail to understand is the concept of which tiles are shred tiles, which tiles are the most vulnerable to enemy fire. And when you have artillery, you can basically draw a heat map even, is you look at the tiles which are inside enemy borders and you go three out from those, and that's like one shot on that tile. So for John, John has a huge amount of firepower on the first line outside Kayapoi. Those are all kind of shred tiles because he can pretty easily set up his arty to fire on those tiles.
Yep. For sure. So I end up like roading up here on this deer is a bad road, right? That's a road that I just
Mhm.
shouldn't be roading. Um, Honestly, maybe right in front of the city, maybe, and then be setting up, kind of behind that city, and then trying to play recap. The only other
Mhm.
thing I want to call out here is I'm building a lot of longswords. This is because I'm going for muskets. I want to initially get, kind of beefy frontline units to fortify in front of cities, right? As just an initial line of defense, right? Arty can be really effective when their cabs just get a lot of value just running in. Um,
Mhm.
and obviously that's not like muskets are the best unit to just kind of defend that, right? They're relatively hammer efficient. They're not hammer efficient in trading, but they're beefy and you can build them right now, right? They're the best thing I can build. Especially all of my gold, I want to eventually use on artillery upgrade or maybe a cav upgrade or two, right?
I would actually, so here's a point where I would disagree with you. I would actually be spamming pikes. One of the things that is kind of weird about Civ 5 combat is this is a little bit hard to describe. The damage rate increase is not quite linear. If my unit is twice this, so if my unit is the same strength as yours, I deal about 30 to 33 damage. If it's twice the strength, I deal about 45 damage. The damage increase isn't quite linear. And you have a big acceleration between twice the strength and three times the strength of damage increase.
And honestly, after the next game that we'll highlight later, I would agree with you.
Yeah.
Pikes and forts are just insane. Um, so, um,
The other thing is that it's very typical in most cases to for your back units to want for your back cities to want to create speedy units. If you think about the time it would take for a typical longsword or musket to arrive to the front, it's gonna have to walk 6 tiles at a time. It's probably about 3 turns. Here, Maori is very unique because the Maori units come out with their movement bonus. They can get to the front pretty much instantly.
yeah, totally agree. The only other thing I want to call out in kind of this prep phase is, as we skip through, is that I believe I end up engineering Himeji here, um, and John ends up taking leaning. So
Mhm.
John had the opportunity to um, not go Himeji. It looks like this turn is stuck. Um, but he went for leaning instead. Leaning is a better long term. Well, it's maybe a better long term wonder for science generation and for science and for pure sim. But if you're going arty, Himeji can just be better, right? Like if the person you're artying engineers Himeji, it can really, really put a damper on the speed of your kill. And denying that from them and getting it on you, even if you're not fighting in your own borders, is really, really strong because you're denying the opportunity for them to get that wonder. If I didn't have
Mhm.
Himeji here, it would have been a lot harder. So I'm gonna skip through the prep.
Yes. Hmm.
A lot of factories are getting done, right? Like this honestly feels a little bit like a slog, right? Where you're having to build your factories. They're building units, and it's going to be good in the long run, right? I don't think I finished this bank, but you can see all of this prep is I am too far up here, right?
Bro, that bank is crazy. I
I
didn't
don't
even
think I finished the
realize you.
bank. I think it's overflow from a factory.
I mean, if that's over, man, that's a crazy thing.
I think I had one turn on the bank to begin with, and then
Okay, okay, okay.
but yeah, yeah. And then I switched off for a factory. And I'm prepping in Oxford and back city. I know I'm roughly four with the scientists. I'm going to be roughly 4 turns from artillery, right?
Hmm.
And I think I have another. Um, maybe I'm not 4 turns from artillery. Maybe I'm further. We'll see. I think I have another scientist somewhere, but maybe not. Um, so it's turn 94. John declares with artillery. This is where this war kind of gets started, and you're going to see a lot of initial success because John is really over cabbed, right? John has about I think like 12 cabs here and only about 4 or 5 artillery, right? I think John is actually his prep was not the best for this individual attack, and I think he ended up buying an artillery in that frontal city at the end of this turn. I think Luca recommends
Hmm.
he does it, right? Because he's just so under artied. Part of the benefit of going over under cabbed, especially when I'm not super set up unit wise, right? Like you can see I have a bunch of kind of trash units, but I don't have a ton
Hmm.
in front of me. Is that these cabs can slam and take a lot of tiles really quickly and be a little oppressive. The issue is that they fizzle out very, very quickly, right?
Yeah, if he had this amount of cav and he had the artillery to back it up, he would be filling all of these tiles behind his cabs with the artillery, and all of this trash would instantly die.
Exactly, exactly. And he actually gets some kills, and I think he takes the city pretty quickly. He gets some kills, but he has this issue where long term his artilleries don't really get value, right?
Yeah. Pause here for a sec.
Okay.
Let's
Uh,
point out how many useless cav there are. So the cav in the north, there's only one artillery up there to support them. So they're just not being very effective, right? You could probably do this whole job with one or two cav instead of the three up there. You've got a stuck cav on the sugar. Again, these cav aren't fulfilling objectives. They're not creating new tiles for artillery to shoot. So that's why I consider them a waste.
I totally agree. Um, so John, you'll see him kind of just you'll see him take the city, right? There's two Arties on the city. The city doesn't have a wall. It's 36 strength. Two Arties will kill the city within 2 turns. And that's what he does. I barely get a cannon out, I think, to recap it. And I think I have to use an extra slam to do so as well. So yeah, he takes the city this turn. I have one cannon in place. I think I probably use the cannon shot this turn. And immediately those forts I built, right, wasteful, right? Like I
Yep.
can't fight on these roads. I get one recap on and maybe, yeah, and I lose 2 units doing it, right? It's not even a good
Yeah, and
recap,
his
right?
artillery are still there firing, so
Yeah,
that knight's dead too.
yeah. So I think the knight ends up getting embarked, right? Like, so just kind of. But the thing that John's not doing is John. The nice thing is when he took the city, he got all the roads this turn. Would be really nice if he
Mhm.
shot with one or two artilleries. I know I recapped and then was able, while he had the roads, move his artillery up 2 tiles, set up, and then so he can be firing further down, right? So the guy on the forest to the bison, right? The other guy on the deer to the other fort next to the city, right? John already has those tiles, so he can be moving them up and then continuing to, you know, uh, kill my units, right?
Yeah. Talk here about like John pushing in the north versus in the south.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really worried about the cities in the north, right? I have one unit. He has one. I see one artillery up there. Everything that goes in the north, right, is kind of like he can take this one city on the right, but I don't think he's going to have much success. It's really slow to push up there as well, right? It's really rough terrain. There's rivers, right? It's just kind of taking away from the main focus, and then is taking away from like dealing as much damage on these cap units in this trash before I get artillery. I know once I get artillery, right, that I'm going to be able to fight at much closer to parity, right? I get a scientist there. Right now I'm 3 turns, right? So I'm going to be artillery in 3. And I also know at this point, okay, I have a lot of junk and a lot of trash. I want to start switching all of my unit production in my close core cities to cannons, right? Because I want to be upgrading as many artilleries as possible, right? And when I'm able to do so, right, that's when we can start to fight. That's when I can stop playing, this defense and trying to hold tiles and trying to delay as much as possible and start, being a little bit more aggressive in killing his units and killing his arties, right?
Yeah, there's a general trend in Civ 5 War, which is that the later the game goes, the later tier of units you have, the less terrain dependent they are. And while Arty are much less terrain dependent than crossbows, they still are subject to these constraints. You can see what's happening is that the inland sea is preventing John from forming the big concave artillery arc that he would want to take out Perihaka from this angle.
And this is
Uh,
why I wanted him to go through Chaco earlier. I mentioned that earlier in the video because that would allow him to get that arc, right? He would be able to
mhm,
be on that straight west part of my capital and just have
mhm.
arty shots just raining on all of my units, right? That banana tile, that cow, that stone, right? Those are not tiles I'd be able to hold effectively, and those would be more like red heat map tiles that Ashwin was mentioning earlier, right?
Mhm.
Um, so this is going. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. John's really struggling in this attack from not having enough artillery, right? And that's why I'm able to continue to hold some of these tiles in front of my capital, and he's not able to make as much progress as I would have expected normally, which is
Yeah,
good.
if it was me, I'm a coward. I'd be off those frontal tiles. I might even be off the tiles in front of Perihaka. I would be hiding like a coward.
um, yeah, let him come in, right? No, I get why, but
Mhm. Yeah, he
John
doesn't have the
starts.
artillery to punish you.
Yeah, he doesn't have the artillery, and he's stepping into my lands. I have Himeji, right? I have elite forces, and then I'm able to kind of. This was a crazy last second sequence from John, but I'm able to kind of punish those units that kind of come in, and that's what I'm trying to do here, right? So,
Mhm.
um, this is not super interesting because John's not able to push effectively, but because a lot of those reasons that we've highlighted. So I want to fast forward until we get artillery. So here's the turn, right? You can see I have 9 or 6 artillery, right, or 6
Mhm.
cannons that I'm going to upgrade to artillery, right?
Yeah.
And that is an underwhelming amount of artillery, right? That amount of artillery, usually, if I have, I would never want 6 artillery for an artillery push, right?
Hmm.
That will kill about probably 2 units a turn, right? Which is fine. It's just you need more than that, right? Because arties
Yeah.
get to shoot every turn, and they get to, consistently get value because they don't take damage, right? If you're doing this properly, right? Your front
Yeah.
lines taking all the hits, your arties are getting all the value, right?
One of the things that is also really important about defense in artillery wars is that defensive advantage is much bigger on artillery than it is on cavalry. The problems that artillery generally suffer from are their lack of movement, which is incredibly mitigated by friendly roads, and their lack of vision, which is mitigated by being in your own borders. So you're a lot more willing to just hard artillery spam on defense because you're pretty confident that your artillery will find shots and be able to maneuver.
Exactly. The only other thing I want to talk about at this point, I have Himeji, I have Autocracy, I have Total War, so I'm getting an extra promotion. So I only built barracks in my city, so everything's double promoted, and I have elite forces, so I have an extra 10% and more healing, right? The point that is John does not have that 15% from Himeji, right? Because we're
Hmm.
fighting in my borders, right? And he does not have ideology. So he does not have. So he might have double promos because he built his armories, but he does not have the elite forces bonus, right? So interactions for me, right? Like our fighting within my borders is a lot better for me, easier for me than it is for John. That's the overall point.
Yeah. Other thing that I really want to point out is that I absolutely hate these cabs on the right from John because
They're
there's
just
no
dying.
threat associated to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're pillaging
One thing you can
tiles.
do,
They're
yeah, the most important thing
but
you
it's
do
not.
when you're
Yeah,
inside enemy borders like this is you need to be pillaging roads, hill roads, connecting roads. If he like limits your reinforcement, that's like some objective for the Cavs. But what's happening now is that you can see that his army has become really lopsided. There's Cavs on the right, and there's artillery on the left. And there's even, you can see here that there are artillery touching enemy roads. For me, every time I see one of my artillery touching an enemy road, I expect it to die because that it's just so easy to focus that down as you've just done on the screen.
yeah, and generally, effective arty timings, you want to be building a lot of artillery at the start of the war or before the war, a lot of cannons to really upgrade, and in the range of like 10 minimum is really what I want to hit, right? And you may even want more than that, right? The more the better, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
want to, as the war is going on, be building more frontline. I think John ran into the issue where he's cab slammed a lot here, and now he's finally gotten like close to a little bit more of a mass of arties. Like we saw 7 or 8 of them, and
Mm-hmm.
now yeah, there's probably 7 on the screen, and I killed one last turn. But his front line's totally out of position on the right.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like he doesn't have cabs to back them up. It looks like he has one cab in front of all of these units, which is
Yeah, pushing here
unfortunate.
is very difficult. In order to push here, what he would need is he would need enough cabs to like man the front line so that his cabs don't get slammed. He'd need more cabs to swap so that his cabs don't get completely destroyed. And at some point, he would probably need to general and be able to hold that general so that he could really lay down artillery fire. There are a lot of factors which make pushing difficult.
And the other thing I would like to bring up is that we know based on like some of these cycles in, yeah, he's finally starting to push these arties up. The reason that he's pushing these arties up is because he had 2 arties on the cow and the hill behind Kawapoy. Um,
Hmm.
and he's pushing these arties up to try to get shots with all his arties. The issue is that I'm also holding back with other arty shots, so he's pushing into bad trades. Is essentially what's happening.
Hmm.
And he's going to push into the bad trades consistently, and I'm just going to outtrade him, especially with the combat bonuses I've had from fighting in my own land. Right. This front is just not wide enough that now he has too many artilleries to fill the front. Right. Maybe he's on the edge. Maybe he has on the right amount of artillery, but he needs more frontline then, right, to really be able to push in and get all the arty value.
Hmm. And so even though like it looks scary here because there's so many enemy units on the screen, at this point you can actually be kind of confident that you're going to hit a hold.
Yeah, this I think 103 is the turn where I just start to get a ton of value. I think I get a ton of extra, a couple extra cabs out. I think I got 3 cabs in all these cities, and I know I have enough arty shots. And so even though I've been losing units, I know this is where I think I'm gonna potentially break him, and I think we do. Um, yeah, he threw an arty
Oh,
up there. I don't know why he did that. Probably a misclick.
that was a right click.
That was a right click. Oh,
Yeah.
unfortunate. Just if anyone doesn't know, when you shoot with artillery, after you've set them up, you can use your right click on your mouse, which is also if it's an empty tile, it will move that to that tile rather than shooting. Right. The other option is you can hit B, and then you can hit a left click, right, and that will always shoot. So,
Mhm.
um, so he's frontlining a bunch of Arty here. Let's see if I maybe next turn is when I really start to get some slams in. Looks like I'm about to miss production. Not that it matters too much. I did. Oh well. So I want to focus on the front here because we only see Arties, right? I think I killed a bunch of calves. I'm putting my
Mhm.
Arties up. I know this is the turn where I'm gonna get a bunch of value and I'm really gonna win the war, right? Um,
Yeah. So like kind of a macro thing here is what you want to do at this point is you want to unlock your cavalry.
yep.
The easiest way to do that is actually to take Kayapoi first. Kayapoi is already kind of a priority target because it's got that general in it. But once Kayapoi is taken, the roads are yours. And you can tell that he's like really just low on cavalry because there's no cavalry in front here. So my first move in this sequence would be to try to take Kayapoi to get the roads, and then my calves will be able to cycle freely.
Yeah, and I just think I probably was uncomfortable with the amount of calves. I only have about 3 or 4 of them that are
Yeah.
deployed in the front. So
Hmm.
even if I took the city, right, like I wouldn't be able to cycle that many calves on them if that makes sense.
Yep.
And that's probably why I didn't. But this turn, I think I'm going to take the city probably.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, at this point, like you've achieved artillery mass over him. He doesn't have cavalry to support his front. You have more combat bonuses, and you have more hammers. So
yep.
at this point, winning the war is like a
Yeah.
matter of just getting your
and
clicks
and
through.
we can kind of see everything. Like this screen shows everything that you need to know. John is down to 3 artillery and 3 cavalry, right?
Hmm.
Maybe he has one more in the fog there, right? But John needs to retreat. John can no longer push. I think we don't play this out, but you mentioned that I probably could have counter killed him, right? And I
Hmm.
probably should have stayed it and counter killed him. I do have a relevant game. There's a little bit other game states issues with this position in this map, right? If you look at this map on the right side of the screen, Argentina is really my only neighbor. Um, he kind of enables neighbors New Zealand, but we really have more borders. I really didn't like this push into me because of this map is like in this like weird. Everybody has like we have 3 mid map kind of people, right? So,
Hmm.
but that was just my thought. I want to go on to the next game at this point. Um,
Before we go, let's just do
yep,
a quick overview of the big points.
sure.
John starts with not enough artillery to exercise his advantage. The inland sea splits the attacking forces in a way that further prevents John from applying force. Smiley starts off defending far too far forward, um, and doesn't set up his recap properly on Kayapoi, especially the lack of road by the
The
lumber
lumber
mill
mill.
tile.
Yep.
Yeah, really prohibits this. John suffered from serious happiness issues, which were probably just the game state and the lack of ideology, and this slowed down his production quite a lot. And then eventually, artillery mass is achieved on Smiley, and he's already kind of got the better sim position, so that's the game.
Yep. Exactly. This other game I'm going to start off with. This is also a game versus John. I am playing Lib2 Piety. The only reason I'm going to mention that is because Lib2 Piety, if you're able to finish Liberty after playing filling out Piety, you get an extra scientist. John is playing, so I know I can kind of beat out Artie very quickly. Um, I did not go. I
What
went.
exactly makes you able to the extra scientist? You already said that. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, no, you're good. So Liberty, you get a free great person, right? I'm gonna pick a scientist. I know I'm, teching Furt, right? But I will be able to be there very quickly. John is gonna come in with Winged Tazars, right? Winged Tazars are a very annoying unit because of a lot of things, right? They have what charge as a promo, which is
They don't have charge. They have heavy
they have
charge.
heavy charge. Thank you. Um, which is what it's not.
I'll
What does
I'll
it do?
describe it
Yeah,
completely.
yeah. Thank you,
So
thank you.
when the unit would win a combat, uh, that is when it would deal more damage than it receives, it pushes the enemy unit onto another tile. If
Or
there is no
yeah,
other
yeah, you got
available
it.
tile, the defending unit suffers an extra, I believe, 50% damage.
Exactly, exactly. I'm actually going to pause here for one moment, right? Because I want to talk about this attack on the right. Um, I'm setting up. So the best way to defend Wing Tsars is there's no best way. Is long and the short of it. But pikemen are the best unit, like hammer efficient, to trade against them, right? But they don't really do a good job killing the units. They just do a good job holding, right? So you kind of need to hold until you get artillery is the best way. Based on my sim position with John, I assume because of this inland sea that he's going to come in for these two south cities, right? John
Mhm.
instead wraps around and starts hitting the right side of my empire, right? The
That
reason
that
that
was a honestly tactically brilliant.
it was
Like
so
there
good.
you
I mean, the issue is that you take that city. He didn't deploy through the right. You have this like hill or mountain hill, right? City,
Mhm.
and he didn't get through that in time. You can see me immediately trying to get pikes in those on those hills next to those mountains because I know I don't want him to be able to flood in, right?
He got you completely by surprise, and that city which could have been defended just died. It was so good. Um, yeah. Oh, other thing about winged hussars, but while we're kind of on this topic, is that winged hussars are 5/4 movement, and they're much stronger than the typical lancer. They're just very, very good utility units.
Yep. Um, if you go artillery, right? If you go wing hussars into artillery,
Mhm.
on you don't even build calves, right? You just build wing hussars. The other thing about wing hussars is that they most times you don't even go to artillery because they're just so good at pushing units off tiles and taking tiles with that heavy charge that they that you can just go in with cannons to damage the cities because you're already taking
Mhm.
tiles very efficiently, right?
Yeah. So can you actually pause here? Can you talk about where's the defensive terrain and where you would think you would want to defend?
Yeah. Let's see if I get a good angle of that south front. Right
Yeah.
on the north, right? I know I want to defend in the mountains. We already talked about that briefly. In the
Hmm.
south, what I'm thinking about the line that I'm trying to make is so he can't get any flanking, right? That being said, it's like it's this is really the line, or it's here to here, right? So he can't ever triple flank any tiles, right? I've lost this tile, so I have to kind of come back at least, right?
I
It was
think this is actually incredibly hard terrain to defend, and this is a situation where I'd be trying to abandon like as hard as possible as soon as he has unit mass because you have to have basically more units than he does in
yeah,
order to defend this area. The
and
rivers, you're settled in front of the rivers, which means they're in limiting your movement. You're the one who loses all the recap wars, and it's really hard to set up a defensive line, which gets you behind the rivers.
ordinarily yes. Do remember that
Oh
this is
right, you're
Songhai,
Shanghai.
yeah. So
Yes.
it's kind of bullshit. Um,
Uh-huh.
so you can kind of recap and fudge over these rivers. The thing that is really messed up, I totally agree. You need a lot of units to defend this very well, right? And I freaked out when John
Mm-hmm.
comes up on the right side with a lot of his units,
Mm-hmm.
and I pull way too much up. So all of my units are coming out of here. I don't actually need to
Mm-hmm.
be that scared and start pulling all these up now, right? I I should keep everything down there, and it's going to take him time to a take that city, and then b flood in, right? Part of the issue with Wing Tazars is they don't do well versus cities themselves, right? You need cannons, right? It looks like he has trebs. He might not. It didn't even look like he cannon upgraded them, right? So it's going to take some time to actually take these cities and then like keep going, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's where this runs into some issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, all we're doing now, trying to fortify pikes, trying to not lose tiles,
Yeah.
and we
And
end up
this is a losing proposition long term. You're just buying
yes.
yourself time.
And you can even see in my cap, has started to make a cannon, right? I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm on 17 pikes, right? I can
Mm-hmm.
see that on the bottom left, and I'm making 4 or 5 more. I know I'm going to lose 2 or 3 pikes a turn, somewhere in that range, and I just need to hold until I can get to artillery. That's my thought. Um, I already took my finisher scientist, so it looks like I'm going to be an Arty in probably 6 turns with this scientist, and go from there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
which is not bad. 98 Arty after going 16 is not a bad timing at all, right? I think
Yeah.
16 and maybe something else. So um, I just kind of get fucked here. So I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. John starts to have a lot of success in Kumbi's
Yeah,
Sela.
so one of the things that's happening here is that you're touching his roads, and that makes his winged hussars, uh, they're all infinitely effective. Every single winged hussar can slam from his own tiles. He almost never gets stuck. Um, so in situations like this, what I really want to do typically is I want to take one step back. I just don't want to be touching enemy roads if I can avoid it.
You would give up the city, is what you're
I
also
would
saying. Yeah,
I
you
would
would
give up the
abandon that
city.
position. Yeah.
Like not instantly, but as close to instantly as I could. Um,
Which is fair. I think I'm a little bit adamant because like this is where I thought he would push, and I just got really frazzled to start this war. Um,
yeah.
right.
There's also some notion in your head. You think, oh, I've got my forts and I've got my defender, and the if the pikes are winning the engagement versus the hussar slam, they don't take the heavy charge damage. So you are more incentivized to be fighting in an entrenched position than you would
Exactly.
against, say, an artillery push.
Exactly. And the other thing is, not only do I have defender Himeji, right? So I'm getting 30% combat bonus on a fortified pike, right? Which the fortification is 20 or 40% depending upon how long you've been fortified, and then the fort is an extra 40%, right? So I'm
Mhm.
stacking all these bonuses on top of each other. I really don't want to be losing those forts, and I'm
Mhm.
staying there longer than I should because of that, right?
Mhm.
Honestly, and what I do here is I just make this little line behind this mountain pass because I don't have my roads up yet.
Mhm.
John's trying to get through. John's not going to trade well into these defender Himeji rough terrain fortified pikes. He's just not.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have roads, and he's not going to be able to cycle. Um,
Yeah, this is the perfect line because like the way he's going to try to break through is by trying to create more and more trades and like overwhelm the pikes, but he's going to be trading badly each time, and he just can't force that many trades. Even with 5 move, you can't be slamming into non-roaded rough terrain that much.
and I think maybe this turn, I bail out. I think it's this turn or next turn. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm just retreating, right? I'm giving up potentially these two cities, right? My
Yep.
concern is that I'm potentially giving up. I was um, what 7 city, right? I've lost one. And I'm concerned about my long-term hammers, right? I know I'm gonna have to make
Mm-hmm.
artillery, right? I know I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna have to continue to produce units to win this war. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I'm gonna be able to win this war. I'm concerned if I give
Mm-hmm.
up too many cities and too many positions, that I'm not gonna have like once I get to artillery, I'm not gonna have enough hammers to consistently fight, and I'm just gonna get ground down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's why I'm also hesitant to give up cities. When I'm 8 city liberty, I'm always okay giving up 1 to 2 cities if it means giving like sacrificing units. When you start to give up 3 or 4, it gets really really risky, right? You're sacrificing half your hammers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so this is not super interesting.
Yeah, so one
I'm
of the things that's happening here in the background is that John has actually hit a happy wall again, which is kind of consistent for him here.
Yep.
And John needs to regroup in order to get his happiness fixed so he can push. And if you ever hover the units, you'll show the combat minus. Hopefully you do that at some point.
I
Uh,
it gets much worse
yeah.
here. So I don't think he's the happy wall is that bad yet. I think it's much
Hmm.
later. But if you watch, he actually flips cities during the war because he's so unhappy. He knows he needs the courthouses.
Wow.
So yeah. Um, so
Yeah, so this pike you've got like standing on the floodplain, touching all of his units. That's a hell tile for a pike.
yeah. Oh yeah. The one in front of Gao. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I think it's because I everything would be Zoc touching it right with that other pike behind it. But and I know I'm
Mhm.
Songhai, so I can get that out pretty quickly because of
Oh,
the
that's a
river.
hill tile. Okay, sorry. I thought it was a
Yeah.
floodplain tile.
Oh
It's a
well,
lot
there.
better if it's a hill
Yeah,
tile.
yeah. So now I
Minus
really
18%.
yeah
So he's 9 unhappy here.
yeah, and it does get much worse. So
Yeah.
he's having trouble deploying. Like it's not super effective, but also he's still just moving units up, right? Like these units aren't
Hmm.
particularly fast, right?
Hmm.
And by retreating, I bought myself time, right? That time is to
Hmm.
hopefully get to artillery, right? It looks like
Yeah.
I'm 2 turns off artillery, um,
Uh-huh.
and I think yeah, I have Oxford prepped. I'm getting cannons, and we're going through. So John's starting to pressure Timbuktu. I know I probably can't hold that city as long as I don't have any units on that south side of that river. So I know I'm
Hmm.
going to lose that city. I'm okay with that,
Yep.
right?
The worst thing, the thing that always tilts me every time I see it is when people try to fight over a dead city. They feed all their units in front of it, and then they lose the city anyway because they have no units to defend it.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just have to give it up.
and that's what kills some wars, right? Honestly,
Yeah.
when you lose all your units and then they have but you haven't lost a city yet, or you have lost one city, but and then you realize they have no units, and then they sweep all your cities in like 2 turns, right?
Yep.
So and it just kills everything. So all I'm doing here, I'm up to 16 pikes. I built up a ton of
Hmm.
front line, right? I just have pikes, and I'm roading. I'm not even bothering forting, right? I'm just roading around my capital. I know
Yep.
I'm gonna have a bunch of cannons. I'm gonna upgrade a bunch of artillery, right? And I'm going to, and that's how I'm gonna defend. And I can kind of, these pikes were what, 60 hammers, right? I can throw them out to die right at this point, right?
Yep.
Like, so pretty comfortable there. So John's starting to push in, and this is where the fun kind of happens, right? Yeah, like that's the tile that you were talking about. That's the floodplain
Yeah.
that was really bad. But I Oxford artillery, so I know this
Mm-hmm.
turn I have, I think, 4 Arty upgrades, which is not a
Mm-hmm.
ton, right? And part of the issue here is I'm just, the last game I had a lot more hammers, right? This game I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, right? I have a hard time making artillery because I'm down to 4 cities, right? I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
lose Timbuktu. I'm gonna lose that city on the left. And I'm gonna be on 4.
Mm-hmm.
That's so. Um, but yeah, John takes a city. John goes really unhappy, right? I'm slamming these wings Hussars with pikes because he's what I don't know what that red number is, but minus 28,
That's
so minus
minus
14
20.
unhappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so with Defender Himeji, and even though that these are insane units, right? I know I can get some value, and I want interactions at this point, right?
Yeah.
Because of the unhappy wall. So
Another like small thing to say here is that Songhai Cav upgrade is uniquely ineffective. Songhai Knights are cheaper than normal Knights, which makes upgrading to Cav more expensive. On top of that, Wing to Sars are the kind of units that trade incredibly well versus Cav. So I think the army composition you end up on here, which is like Pike spam plus just hard build, like upgrade RD, hard build RD, is the correct one.
yeah, honestly, it worked very well. So we're at artillery, right? And next turn is, and honestly, like he's so unhappy. I'm trying to slam these cannons, right? Like, because
Yeah.
he's frontlining them, because the interaction is so good. When you're minus 14, right, and you're
Yeah.
minus 28, the way that combat in Civ works is like, essentially it's not minus 28%, but it's minus a lot more because uh, it's not linear, is the best way to put it. How the combat interactions work. So, and
Mhm.
if you look at what I'm building in every single city, I'm building 1 cav and 3 cannons, which are artillery, right? So on this turn,
Yeah.
I'm at 7 artillery, right? That
Yeah.
is not quite mass, but that's getting close, right?
Mhm.
Especially on defense, and especially when he has all these pike see through. So
Yeah. So he's obligated to push here, or at least he feels obligated to push here, and he's running like head first into the artillery. This is the nightmare.
yeah,
This is also like this is these both these videos are really really good demonstrations of why artillery is good. John has these cannons lined up, which have no targets to shoot at. He's frontlining cannons to get at pikes. It's horrible, but the cannons can't back up the winged hussars like they would like to because they don't have the range and they don't have the movement.
yeah. And the other thing I want to say is I did a really good job prepping around my cap. Within like 2 tiles on the cap, only almost every tile is either rotated or currently being rotated, right? What that enables
Mm-hmm.
to do is arties can move 2 tiles, set up, and shoot if they're on your own roads, right? So I was able to kill that cannon there because I was able to take the arty that spawned out of my cap, move 2 tiles down to that floodplain, right? And then shoot the cannon. And then I shot with 2 arties and I slammed with the pike. If I lose the pike, if I trade a pike for a cannon, that's a really good trade for me, right? That's a trade I'm
Yeah.
willing to make every single day. So he ends up killing that pike. That's fine, right? I'm a little bit worried that I don't want him slamming that artillery on that floodplain because that'd be a really good trade for him, even with
Mm-hmm.
the unhappiness, right? So, but
Mm-hmm.
worst case, I think I would just put a pike in front, the one that's on the jade, right? I can just always move that up. So,
Yeah,
again,
and
I'm
this is
not worried
again
about.
a useful shot comparison here is every single one of your artillery has fired this turn.
Yep.
I think one of John's cannons has fired this turn.
Yeah. Uh, I totally agree. And if you look, like he has 3 cannons on the right that you can just. They're not getting value. They can't get through the mountain pass. He needs to like try to probably push through Timbuktu, but he knows he maybe doesn't have the front line over there to do it. I don't totally know, right?
I mean, he's just
Um,
unhappy. He has to regroup,
yeah.
and it's a hard decision to make. But I think you have to be like walking back and waiting to marshal more strength to push again.
Yeah. So he gets baited by the artillery on that floodplain, right? And he takes a
Mm-hmm.
tile. I'm moving all my artillery back 1 tile and just shooting, right? There's still
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not really. If he wants to push up, right, he can get next to my artilleries as long as he's not slamming them. I'm perfectly comfortable as long as I'm getting shots, right? Um,
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about hammer deficit. Um, the hammer deficit is being uh how do you say like negated, not negated, a weaker word, by the fact that the artillery are killing about 3 units per turn. So that's like 3 units per turn of production in the mirror.
Yep. John is, I think, on 3 times my hammers at this point.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah. So, and all I'm gonna do is this entire war, right? He pushes in, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, that's unfortunate, right? But I think I've killed 2 or 3 winged hussars. I'm gonna move these arties around. I'm gonna kill the
Hmm.
winged hussars I can, and I'm gonna try to not let any winged hussars end the turn next to my artillery, right?
Hmm.
And I think I do that here. I'm not sure. I probably double slam. I don't know if I kill. Yeah, but that unit can't do much. I mean, it could pillage and get a heal promo, which would be very unfortunate. But um, I'm probably going to try to first move it. So, um,
Yeah.
and let's go to next turn. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. Um,
Hmm.
he moves the cannon up. That cannon's dead, right? That moved onto a
Yep.
hill in my territory. That's out of move. I'm just going to shoot it, right? And there's a lot of this, right? I'm just getting value wherever John is handing me value on this defense. That's what I'm getting, right? Um,
Hmm.
I don't know why I killed it with the pike, but um,
Yeah,
so
I think generally here you do want to be like slamming before shooting. This is one of the things that
yes,
could have been
yes,
improved on.
yeah, for sure. Um, so
So just like rule of thumb for the audience, you want to finish off the unit with a slam when you want to take tiles, and that's something you generally want to do when you have when you have more units, you're backed up. You want to increase frontage. You want
so
to,
I think actually a good example is I'm really trying to get Jenny and Wallata because the roads are not connected, right? I'm really
yeah,
trying to retake these tiles and get them connected. So I actually wanted to slam with that pike to kill that unit to get that Lapis tile back because it's my road, right? And I
yeah,
would like to
and he's
heal.
also weaker up there. You know he has
Exactly.
like less units.
Exactly. So most of my already shot this turn. Every arty on my side is shooting every turn, right? Even this one, right? I'm just looking where can I move it so I can just dump a shot, right? And that's what I did, right? So
Hmm.
I'm at 8 artillery. Everyone's shooting every turn, right? So he's trying to push in again, right? And it's going to be the
Yeah,
same story. It's a lot of the same story, right? When
yeah.
would actually good question for you? When would you have stopped pushing here if you were John? Um,
Probably around the time I was at -9, I would have like tried to chill out and fix the happiness
so,
for
but
a while
now
because.
he's not, right? And he's still
Mhm.
shoving in, right? Um,
So he should have. He's got some generals that he's not using, and I think um, I'm I'm willing to create a general fight. This is a little bit complicated, but you can, even if you're getting counter generaled, you can general in such a way that you claim more tiles than you started with, right? So I think a big part of the like winning play for John here is generaling in to get more tiles, and then he absolutely needs artillery. He can't finish this fight without artillery. Um, but there are a lot of conflicting priorities for him. He needs to fix his happiness. He needs to stay relevant because there are other players in the lobby. He needs to not expend too many citadels because he might need those for his future wars. Um, the what I think the big opportunity here is probably if you can refocus everything south of Gao, you get all your units there, you get to artillery, and then you general in. But that's
yeah.
like a very long multi-step process.
Yep. And then, so what did you think of the Citadel I placed?
Um, this is one of the safest places a citadel can go. So when
While
you're
still being
citadeling like
effective,
this,
right?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah. When you're citadeling like this, the worry is that your opponent's going to counter citadel you, and then you've done it for nothing. But he would have to citadel in twice in order to do that, and you're already holding a counter. So this is a reasonable and good citadel to place. The
um,
only reason you
yeah,
might not do it is if you're so confident in your defense that you think you don't need it, and you'd like to have it to counter kill with.
totally agree. The other thing is here is that I've spawned 2 generals,
Hmm.
and I have piety finished, right?
Yeah.
So I bought another general. So
Uh-huh.
even if he would have to general twice to counter that one
Hmm.
general, and then I have two
Uh-huh.
generals to respond with, right? So I'm
Yes.
very comfortable expending this general early, right? And
Hmm.
going from there. Um, the other
Yeah,
thing
so
is
here, yeah.
we're talking about sim perspective a little bit when you would attack. John was had so much success at the start of this war, right? He took 4 cities. He stole a bunch of techs because Wings Hussars were before, so he stole most of the way to artillery. He actually
Yep.
didn't tech artillery and hoping to greed artillery, right?
I
If
see. He's
if you
hoping for just
notice,
one more city capture.
Yeah, just one more city to capture. Exactly, exactly. So part of the issue with this war is you notice that like he has cannons, he has no arties firing on me, right?
Hmm.
Everything is trying to be Wingtazar slam, and that's what enables me to get so much value out of my own artillery, right? So
Uh,
I think I want to fast forward a bit. I'm up to I something I want to keep an eye on is when we upgraded, we were on the turn after we upgraded, we spawned 3 artillery, we were up to 7 artillery. Now we're up to
mhm.
10, right? You can see that on the bottom right. So even though like some of these arties have taken damage at some point, you can see John trying to push in with slams, right? We're getting more and more arty mass, and we're getting stronger and stronger every turn, right?
Yeah.
And it's
There's
just
no reason to stop building artillery if they're not dying and they're firing.
exactly, and he's getting close to killing some of these, right? But
Yeah.
every time he gets close, he's overextending it as well, right? And that unit is dying,
It's just
right?
very
So
hard to push this kind of Himeji defender setup.
yeah,
It's I mean he's got to like general in if he's gonna
yeah,
break this.
yeah, I agree. Um, I'm kind of switching here to cavalry. I don't. Do I go back to artillery? Um, I don't know.
I think what was happening here is at this particular time you were trying to set up a recap on Timbuktu.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. So, oh, this is so sad. I think it's next turn, but oh, it's right here. Oh
Yeah,
my
so he
God,
gets you
yeah,
right in between.
yeah,
That was the worst
uh,
possible way that interaction could go for you. Now
yeah,
your artillery
exactly.
is exposed to enemy units
Yeah,
on the roads, and your cav is dead,
yeah,
and you don't have the city.
yeah. Oh, it was so bad, and the lag was just awful, right? Like I probably should have clicked faster, but I wasn't clicking. Like, I I should have just clicked faster, right? Sometimes when you have bad lag, right, you don't click. You are supposed to click for all your interactions and then watch them all, right?
Yeah.
Don't wait, if that makes sense.
I also think cavalry here just don't do a job that lancers wouldn't. You're fighting a unit which has a very high anti-cav modifier, and you're ideally only using the lancers to like finish off weak units or to capture cities. So I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't make any cavalry.
yeah. I on second watch, I agree. Um, I think
Yeah, so there's like more fighting happening here, but at this point you can kind of say it's a wrap because
yeah,
again, the same story as last time. Artillery mass has been achieved. There's a lot of combat bonuses. It's just very, very hard to break this. So as he shoves in, he's just exposing more units to artillery fire. You can look at like the trades per turn. He's killed one cavalry this turn, I believe. Uh, and every single wing to Tsar gets killed for free by the artillery.
yeah.
So
And another thing I want to point out, right? When I'm fighting here, right, I'm using all the shots that can only hit that south wing to Tsar, right? And then
mhm.
I'm saving all the other arties the one deeper in my territory that has a harder time retreating, and then using the rest of the shots on that one, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I also know I'm gonna have more combat bonuses on that one that's in my terrain, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly should just throw that pike and zock it or prevent from any escape. But it
Yeah.
looks like John finally tries to citadel in here, and
Mhm.
this citadel doesn't do anything, right? It's very important I don't lose my citadel tile and get it pillaged, but until
No, I actually disagree with you completely. I think this is a huge citadel because what it does is it creates the opportunity for him to cycle on your roads. Sorry, on
oh, and this
your
is just, I mean,
yeah.
it's over at this point. John, um, I don't know if there's a river there or what happened, but it was out of movement and it just
So
died.
it was his road when he generaled. He moves the general in. You counter general. Now it's a rough terrain tile.
Yeah,
And so then the general runs out of movement.
exactly. And then it's just very, very hard to push at this point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is kind of it, right? I
Yeah.
got Arty Mass. 10 artillery is a lot of artillery firing every turn.
Mhm.
And then John keeps trying to push until I end up, I can't have a playable game here. I can't counter kill John because his hammers are so strong. And John's not greeting. John, I end this on turn 109. John had built 0 factories and 0 schools. Right,
Mhm.
John has a very, very hard time winning the game from this position. Right, if
Mhm.
he greeted potentially, there's potential opportunity that maybe I could have counter killed or pushed more. But I gave up so many cities that my hammer differential, despite trading so well, was so
Mhm.
weak that I could never quite push John back. Right, even though I fought very well and I got very good trades.
Yeah.
One last thing I want to bring up is that the difference here is from the last video that I really learned and I improved on was I kept building Arty after I hit Arty, right? Last video,
Yeah.
I think I had Arty mass, but it was only like 6 Artys. It was on the very low end of what I needed, right? Here, the reason I did so well is I continued to build Arty. I got 10 Arty. 10 Arty shots a turn is a lot of Arty shots a turn, especially when every single one's deployed every turn. You never have to move.
Yeah. Man, I can't believe you got that cap loss. Uh, Artillery are good. Defending is about utilizing the advantages you have, which are things like increased mobility due to your own roads, increased vision due to being in your own borders, the defensive combat bonuses that Lekmot offers you. And artillery really exploit this advantage.
Totally agree. Any other closing remarks?
No, I think this is good, and I think it's a bit sad that it's kind of like two videos where John doesn't succeed at Arty Wars, but I'm pretty sure I have a strong feeling he'll get you next time, so I don't feel that
Yeah,
guilty.
yeah. John's a good player. And he his war is better than I think what was showcased here, which I think is unfortunately it doesn't quite do him justice. But I think he made a couple crucial mistakes and he's learned from them as well. We talked
I
extensively
think
about this game
he's
as well.
gonna be a Fac Arty. I think the next one is gonna be a Fac Arty. Like he's both of these times he was really crippled by his lack of happiness and his lack of combat bonuses, and there's one definitive way to fix both of those problems.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
of course. Thanks for coming on.